Have you ever wanted to give yourself a true challenge in the Crown of Sorrow? Do you have a hard time getting a competent group of 6 to raid with? Maybe you're missing Teraba, but don't want to deal with random LFG people. Whatever your reasons are, you're here to learn how to 3-man the Crown of Sorrow. Crown of Sorrow is going away soon, and you all seem to enjoy my 3-man Scourge of the Past guide, so today we're going over how to complete the entirety of the Crown of Sorrow raid with only 3 people. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, it really helps out the channel. I also want to give a shout out to Soundswipe and Playa for dragging me into this. Sound also streamed our entire run, so if you want to check that out, click the link in the description. I'll also link his YouTube and Twitch channels. Just like my Scourge of the Past 3-man, I'm going to assume you have a basic knowledge of the raid already. If you don't, I will leave a link in the description to Rick Kakis' raid guide for dummies. And without further ado, let's jump into the guide. Really any class can run the entire way through, however, Warlocks as usual are going to be the easiest. In our run, we had 3 Warlocks, but looking back on it, a Titan would have been very useful for Bubble. But like I said, it's going to be possible with whichever class you want to run. And as always, you can switch characters and join back if you feel like you need to change something up. A few other things you're going to want are Hive Armaments and Hive Barrier. Hive Armaments gives you heavy ammo whenever you kill a Hive combatant with a grenade, and Hive Barrier gives you a damage resistance after taking damage from Hive. These mods drop from 2 sources, encounters in this raid, and also the Menagerie. Before you start the first encounter, assign 2 people buff team and 1 person non-buff team. This does not mean that you have 2 people get buff. This means you have 2 people who swap between the buff and 1 person who never gets it. The person who never gets the buff can kill all the non-blessed enemies and make sure to kill all the non-blessed snipers. The other person without the buff does the same thing until it's time to swap. The person with the buff needs to take out as many knights as possible. That person will also be responsible for taking out the blessed snipers whenever they spawn. When it comes time for crystals, we had the non-buffed guy stay on the green side and call out the location of the crystal. The person with the buff needs to shoot that one with the guy on that side. Then those same 2 people go to mid and shoot the middle crystal. The middle crystals are very easy to spot, so that's why you have the same 2 people move as one. While all of that's happening, the other non-buff player needs to call out where the red side crystal is, shoot it and have the swapping team swap. If you don't do this part fast enough, you could very easily die to either the crystals or the witch's curse. Before the second wave of crystals in each rotation, there will be 2 ogres that spawn. The non-blessed player shouldn't have a hard time taking out their ogres, but the blessed one will always have to be soloed. I'll go over some loadouts in a minute for this encounter, but keep in mind that something that can deal a lot of damage fast, like a Nova Bomb or Nighthawk Golden Gun, helps a lot when soloing an ogre. If you've never noticed how a full rotation happens, here's a quick rundown. Kill everything that spawns, blessed knights, blessed acolytes, and the non-blessed thrall and acolytes. Eventually the crystals will appear, shoot them, then go and swap buffs. Repeat the same process again, but this time the ogres will spawn on each side, 1 blessed, 1 non-blessed. Each person kills their respective ogres, and then get ready for another wave of crystals. Shoot all of them, then swap buffs again. All of that was 1 phase out of the 4. Yes, it's a very long encounter, but if you understand what you're doing, it's not difficult. It only took us 3 attempts to complete it. For the loadouts, I would recommend Xenophage to 2-shot the knights and 1-shot the acolytes on the balconies. It's also great damage for the ogres. Thunderlord is another great option for the knights and smaller adds, but it does take a while to kill the ogres. If you do want someone to have Thunderlord in your team, it's probably best that only the non-buff player runs it. You're probably going to want at least 1 Well of Radiance or Bubble Titan to stay alive and help out with ogre damage, as well as 2 people running high damage supers like Nova Bomb, Golden Gun, or Thunder Crash. We were using 3 Warlocks, so we had our non-buff player run Well of Radiance, and the 2 on buff team ran Top Tree Nova Bomb, since we were the ones who had to solo the ogres. The rest of your loadout in this isn't too important, just make sure you're able to finish off adds and knights very quickly, and it should go without saying, Recluse and Mountaintop are top tier in this. The second encounter is going to be much easier and far more annoying. Same people on each team, try and shoot the crystals left to right from wherever you see them. When the shielded crystals appear, have one of the unbuffed players go right and the buffed person follow. The other person should head to the left side and get ready for the buffed person. When you get up to a checkpoint, have only the 2 people on buff teams stand in the circle, and the other person stays out. Repeat that until you're all the way on to the other side. If you notice a shielded crystal by itself, always assume it's right side. I think the single crystals are only on the first and last set, so it's not going to be every time that you encounter that. If you aren't too familiar with all the crystal locations, just keep trying. The crystal locations aren't random, so it's just going to take some practice and you'll eventually get it. There isn't really a time limit as long as you make it to each checkpoint before you wipe from Witch's Curse. A little trick you may notice in our run is that if you shoot near the top of a shielded crystal with Mountaintop, it counts as dealing damage, so you don't technically have to get close, but it can be very inconsistent, so I wouldn't rely on it every time. After you reach the top, descend into the final room. The third encounter splits the room into 3 sides. Oh boy, how do I explain this? Let's start by giving each person a side. When the encounter starts, each side will be different. Let's call the side with the buff room 1, the one to its right or clockwise from it is 2, and the one with the boss is 3. Each person needs to kill their 2 wizards that spawn. The person at 1 will not be able to kill the Blessed Thrall until they pick up the buff. The problem here is that if they pick it up right away, they won't be able to kill the wizards. So the person at 1 needs to kill the wizard first, distract the Thrall until the next wizard spawns, and then pick up the buff. After that, ogres should spawn. At this point, everyone should be able to kill their own ogres. Now, instead of having 1 and 2 swap, you need to have 2 remove the buff from 1. To do this, just make sure you have 1 stand by the crystal, and 2 stays out and shoots it. The buff will reappear at 1, just like before, but don't pick it up right away. Do the same thing as before, except this time, 2 also has to deal with the blessed enemies. 1 and 2 can work together if needed, but we stuck to our same sides and repeated the same process as before. After all 4 wizards are down, 2 on each side, have 1 and 2 both grab the buff at the same time. Each person needs to kill their own ogres, and then 2 and 3 swap buffs. It's very important that 1 stays out here. At this point, 1 and 2 need to punch the boss and start damage. This will remove the buff from 1, which stops them from dying from Witch's Curse. 3 should still have the buff, and they need to do the Anarchy or Wither Horde strat. If you aren't aware of the cheese strat on this, you will need to have 1 person stay out and shoot the boss with either Anarchy or Wither Horde, and it'll count as damage being dealt by the buffed player. This allows us to get 4 or 5 breaks and get a lot more damage in. Just make sure you're waiting a couple seconds before shooting, or else the shots might despawn before he puts a shield up. So while the person with the buff is applying the Anarchy or Wither Horde, the other players need to deal as much damage as possible. They, however, can't use Wither Horde on the boss directly because it sometimes messes up the cheese strat. We decided to use swords because you can still one-phase them and you don't need much skill with swords. Another important thing to mention is whenever the person with the buff only has about 10 seconds or less, they need to stop doing the cheese strat and punch him so they don't die from the Witch's Curse. After they lose the buff, they can also damage with a sword. If you're able to one-phase him, awesome. If not, just rinse and repeat. The boss is going to move to one of the other sides, so you're going to have to know every role. Since you never know which role you're going to get, you need a flexible loadout. That's why you'll see all of us running Wither Horde, a good primary for smaller enemies, and a sword. Wither Horde is important, once again because of the cheese strat, but also because it can kill wizards in one shot, as long as you let the full tick damage happen. You can also use Wither Horde against the ogres, but as you can probably see in the background footage, swords, or at least the falling guillotine after the nerf, can kill them with just 1 heavy attack. We also all ran Top Tree Voidwalker with Controverse Hold, because the grenades are great for ad clear and applying Oppressive Darkness, and Nova Bomb is just good for damage phase. I'm sure there are some other good options for loadouts that make it a more consistent one phase, but we went for flexibility and ease of use, and it worked out just fine. Just a quick tip for the Falling Guillotine though. For this encounter specifically, you want to have Relentless Strikes, Whirlwind Blade, and as much ammo as possible. It caps at 70, so try not to sacrifice any damage for ammo beyond 70. Just take my word for it. If you want me to break down the reasoning for this in another video, I can, but I don't want to make one if no one cares. So if you want to see that, just let me know in the comments. The final boss is going to be the most chaotic part of this whole 3-man. Instead of each person splitting up, each person moves as a group. Again, keep 1 person without a buff, and the other 2 people swap when needed. Whenever the first crystal spawns, make sure you destroy it and head clockwise and get ready for the next crystal. The whole time, as you're rotating, you need to be clearing ads. The 2 people without the buff take out the smaller adds, and the 1 person with the buff needs to take out all the knights. What we found was that a direct hit with Mountaintop with a major spec can put the knights in finisher range. Anyone can finish an enemy whether they have blessing or not, so the buffed person can hit a knight once and then move on to the next knight and have someone else clean up the kill. I know I said move together as a group, but if you know you have a little bit of time to spare before the next crystal, don't be afraid to split off for a short time to clear enemies on the other parts of the room. Keep rotating around the room with the crystals until the deceptions spawn. When you get to a deception, have the buffed player and another person melee him, and have the 3rd person shoot the big boss's hand. One of the other players needs to run back to the initial spot where the buff spawns and pick it up again. Repeat this process 2 more times as the other deceptions spawn. Don't forget to shoot the crystals during this. As each deception spawns, there will be ogres on the other sides. The non-buffed players need to focus on those. The Cursed Thrall, or in this case Blessed Thrall, can only be shot by the buffed player, but what I like to do is jump over them so they will explode and kill themselves. You can do this whether you have the buff or not. After you've killed all 3 deceptions, the big bosses will go into their hands phase where each person needs to go to their respective sides, shoot both hands, and damage his head. The real one will appear and another crystal will probably spawn. Get the crystal and swap buffs at the nearest spot. The 3rd person can go ahead and set up next to the boss for boss damage while the other 2 catch up. We used Legend of Acreus for damage, which can make it an easy 2, sometimes 3 phase. I haven't found anything better than Acreus, but I encourage you all to try things out and let everyone know in the comments down below. Whatever you do, don't damage the boss whenever he goes immune. Only shoot his hands or else you won't get a full damage phase. If you feel like he's about to go immune, just slow your DPS. It's not worth losing 1/3 of a damage phase over an extra couple shots. After damage phase, don't forget to swap buffs again or else someone will die. Once you have all that down, just rinse and repeat until you kill him. I know there's a lot going on at once, but try to remember to shoot the crystals, swap buffs as needed, kill knights, kill ogres, and kill deceptions. At the beginning of this encounter, it's definitely going to feel very hectic, but honestly, after you kill some of the adds, it gets much easier, since all the acolytes and knights eventually stop spawning. Whenever you do kill the boss, make sure you don't die to the crown, and then collect your Teraba.
Nick, can you please clip that? Teraba, let's go.
I hope I explained this whole 3-man raid enough for everyone to understand, but if you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments. I try and read and reply to all my comments, so please don't be afraid to ask. I hope you all enjoyed this video. It has taken so long to make, so please leave a like, share it with all your friends, and subscribe for more Destiny guides like this. I want to thank you all for watching. I'm Marshix, and I'll see you next time.